Well, we're going to start in just a second. Okay, let's go. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to make sure the volume is up. Yeah. Thank you for joining me for this new series. I thought about what to call it, and the only thing that I could come up with was um, what do you do when? This series is about the whole notion that love and marriage brings out the best in each partner, and we usually see the best during the before the romantic stage, during the woo each other stage, the attraction stage, and selection stage, and then we go into that romantic part. So it's easy for the best of us to come out during those times. And if something comes up that's irritating, then sometimes people will say, "I know, I know, I said in the beginning, yeah, yeah." So that's kind of irritating, but I'll change that. I'll change that when we uh, get married. Didn't happen, but that's what I was thinking at the time. So once the bond is sealed and the couple comes together, whether they get married or not, anywhere from I usually say from 2 minutes to 2 years or until the children comes, something changes in terms of how people show up in their relationship, especially when they get triggered. And so what I want to do during the series, I'm going to come up with several examples for each segment about different triggers for people that shift them into bringing out their worst self. Now, when I think about worst self, um, I don't think about it in terms of judgment. I think about it in terms of how people have learned to cope over a lifetime that maybe worked for them in the past, that helped them to get through stressful times, but no longer work for them now, especially when they're upset. Because when a person is angry, frustrated, or disappointed, then they become upsetting, frustrating. Um, and so the other person, the other people in the situation, they can only see that negative worst part. So what if beneath the surface of negative reactionary survival based behavior, there is a positive intention? What if? Because I believe there is. And I believe that that intention is to grow a part of ourselves that is either undeveloped, or underdeveloped. I hope that makes sense. So when people are upset, they immediately go into survival mode to cope. And their coping does not impact the other person in a positive way. Most of us have had the opportunity to learn how to shift out of that stage, to go into a safe space inside, to create a safe conversational environment with our partner, to have the conversation, to peel away the layers to find out what's going on beneath the surface. So, this series is about an array of opportunities to be aware of and have options to do just that, to have options to shift into growth mode when upset. Because there is one thing that helped me um, a long time ago when I was in growth mode. Before Jesse and I got married, we took a lot of spiritual classes, personal growth classes, and what have you. And we learned a lot. We learned a lot about ourselves individually, and we weren't a couple. We were just in the process of beginning, well, we were just close friends back then. I didn't know that it was going to develop into something else. But when it did, it's like when we went through those stages, um, I call it stage one, when everything is wonderful. And then stage two, when things begin to change, all the things that you enjoyed in the beginning start getting on your nerves, what have you. So I didn't know, because of the training that we had professionally and the personal growth that we did, we knew that there were love lessons beneath the surface. And so one of my favorite ways to focus on shifting on what I could do differently so that I could show up better, because I discovered during all of that personal awareness and what have you, was that I could be a drama queen. I didn't, it was hard for me to, I wasn't aware of it. And then when I became aware of it, I thought, oh my God, I really can go into drama. I did think about acting when I was growing up, but anyway. So what helped me to think about shifting gears, because I didn't like the way I felt on the inside when I got really upset and then reacted from that place. What helped me in all of those trainings and classes and workshops that I took was the revised prayer of serenity, saying, and many of you know this already, God grant me the serenity to accept the people I cannot change, the courage to change the one I can, and the wisdom to know it's me. Now, you know, when I first heard that, I was kind of disappointed because I wanted him to change. I wanted him to do something differently. Well, he wanted me to change too. And so the cold reality was that we could not change the other person. We could not change in the other person. That was frustrating. And we could invite change. We could have a conversation about how we were impacted by behavior, and then come up with new ways to interact so that there was a different response and a different impact. But that's not something that I grew up with. It's not something that Jesse grew up with. It's something that we learned how to do. And I'm so glad that we did, because love and marriage is a journey. It is, and all of you know that, whether you're married or you're in a committed relationship, you know that you've had peaks and valleys of challenges. But looking at all of that within the context of asking yourself the question, when there is stress, when there are frustrations, when there is hurt, to ask yourself the question after the feelings subside, because it's hard to have an answer when you're flooded with emotions. But once you're calm and reflective, to ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I bring the best of who I am to the situation so that we can either dissolve this, resolve this, or manage it more effectively? And so that's what this series is about. So what if? So this is my what happens when question. What happens to you when you are totally engaged with trying to share your message with your partner and they're not listening? Or they're either ignoring you on their phone, or they have the remote in their hand and what have you, and they're distracted, they're not paying attention, or they're responding to you not based on what you said and where you're coming from, but from a whole different arena, a totally different subject. And I imagine that when that happens, that you get triggered. I know I got triggered. The question then is, so what do you do? Because the first impulse is going to be to react. And then there's a counter reaction. And then you go back and forth. And then it goes on and on and on. Nothing gets resolved. Negative feelings go beneath the surface. They simmer and simmer, go to a slow boil, and then they explode at the most inconvenient time. That is the place where the opportunity for going into reflection mode to figure out what is the growth opportunity for me. Because it's easy to be really clear about what the growth opportunity is for our partner. We can do that easily. But what is the opportunity for growth? So my next question for you is, what happens for you when you have something that you're really trying to share with your partner? You're trying to open up your heart. And now, if you're doing it in anger, if you're doing it with finger pointing and put downs and judgment and criticism, expect you're going to get a negative response. However, you can do something about that. You can change your response. You can change the channel. You can say, I have two options. I can go down the road less traveled and go into survival mode, and we have this conflict and nothing is done, or I can take the road less traveled and grow within me a response that's going to bring out a better version of myself. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how satisfied are you with your response when you get upset with your partner? Think of the last time that you talked. It could be your partner. It could be another important person in your life. Think about what it was like for you when the person that you were talking to was not listening. I know it was a frustrating feeling. I know it didn't feel good at all. My next question is, how did you respond, or how did you react? How did you react? And are you satisfied with your reaction? Did you get the response? Did you get the results that you want? So I'm inviting you to think about, if the answer is yes, that you got the response that you wanted, that's kind of hard to, I can't even imagine what that would be like, because people respond to upsetting reactive responses. But if you did get a positive response, maybe the person was in growth mode and they decided, because it takes two people to tangle, it takes two to tangle and only one to untangle. So maybe that's where they were coming from. Maybe they were in growth mode and they decided, okay, I'm not gonna get tangled up with you. Maybe they were saying, I want us to get together and work through this and get on the other side. Now, if you got that kind of response, fantastic. You can also invite that response yourself. So if you were not satisfied with that response, just think about that scenario when you tried to get your point across and the person wasn't listening, or they were attacking your response, or they were changing the subject and what have you. If you are not satisfied with your response, with your reaction, then think about the prayer of serenity, the revised prayer of serenity, and think about what it is you can change. That's what we're going to be focusing on during the series. Now, this is what I know about change. Change is not easy because you're changing a mindset and you're changing a skill set. You're developing a skill set, but your brain is not wired to think in this new way yet. And the skill set is not developed yet. So it's important to be in an internal environment and sometimes an external environment with other people, like your partner, and maybe in a community, to practice, to be aware of and to practice new ways of responding that support growth for you and supports growth for the relationship, so that you can extend the invitation to each other to build the quality of relationship that you would like. So all of the frustrations between the two of you, when you think about it through that lens, what are the possibilities? What are the possibilities for the two of you in building the relationship of your dreams? So keep this in mind in terms of the prayer of serenity and giving yourself opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to take any stressful situation, any frustration situation as an opportunity, as a laboratory, as to say, okay, so how am I going to approach this situation in a way that's going to bring inner peace for me, harmony for me, harmony in the relationship, joy in the relationship, because we deserve the best. And you don't have to take these steps on your own. There's now some of you who are watching and listening are already in the Facebook group, and I'm inviting those of you who are not part of the Facebook group to join, because I want to give as many tools as I can to help people to think about relationships in a growth producing way. I meet with couples all the time, and I've been meeting with couples for many, 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 many years. I mean, many, many, many years. And I often think about what are the best ways. Actually, in the sessions, I'm always looking for how can we turn this into a growth opportunity. Well, I wanted to have more couples to have that opportunity, to have a forum where they can try out these new behaviors and share their challenges, because sometimes these challenges are easy to overcome. Sometimes they're challenging, and sometimes they're extra challenging. But when you're trying to do something new, when you're trying to better yourself, it's important to not have to do it alone. It's important to be able to do it with each other in partnership. And if you have a community of support, that's icing on the cake. So I put the link to the Facebook group in the chat box, so it ought to show up. If not, I'll put it in the response part, depending on what platform you are looking at, you're watching this on. And I just want you to keep this in mind, that you're worth having the relationship of your dreams. So let's look at all of the ways that you can turn anything that happens in your relationship into stepping stones, into growth opportunities, to have the quality of life together that you desire and deserve. I'll be back next time with another example. So this, for now, just pay attention to what happens when you're talking to someone, especially your mate, and you don't have their attention. Pay attention to how you react, and then take a moment and go into reflection mode and make a decision. First, figure out for yourself what got triggered in you, and then think about, how can I respond to this differently? Not react, but respond. The most important thing is not to do it in the moment, in the heat of the moment. That never works. Give yourself a timeout, do some thinking, and then reapproach your partner with the positive intention to dissolve it, resolve it, or manage it. Take care. See you next time. Bye-bye.